everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about the books that I read in December 2023 and then we can leave the year behind us. Except I still have my stats video to do, so we can almost leave the year behind us. So kicking off December, I read Saga Volume 11 first of all, and I gave this one 3 stars. So this is obviously the 11th volume in the Saga comic book series. The creators took a break a couple of volumes ago and they stopped publishing new additions to the series for a couple of years. I can't remember how long the break lasted, and ever since that break I feel like the series has taken a bit of a different tone. It's definitely less fast paced, and I think that's because it's kind of going into a new story arc, and so this is the sort of build up section, and I'm finding it very difficult to get into as much as I was before. Firstly because something major happened a few volumes ago before they took the long break, and it really changed some of the characters and their relationships, and it also affected, I think, the pacing of the series because it was building up, and this big thing sort of exploded and now it's calming down again, and I'm just finding it really difficult to adjust back down to this kind of calm situation. Even though there's still sort of a lot of stuff at stake, I would say, I'm still finding it quite difficult. So I only gave this one 3. I'm quite happy to carry on with this series, but I don't think I will read them as close to release date as I have been, because I've been pre-ordering the last couple. I think it would be better if I collect them all and then binge read, I don't know, the next 4 or 5 volumes or something. I think I would find the pacing a lot easier to deal with if I do that. I then read Lost in Time by A.G. Riddle, which is a dinosaur book, kind of. It's more just time travel. So this one is about a scientist. It's a guy called Sam, and he worked with a bunch of scientists, friends that he knew, to create a time machine. And the government is using this time machine to send prisoners or criminals back in time to kind of just get them away from society. They're sending them back like 200 million years or something to the time of the dinosaurs. And this isn't for like petty crimes or anything. This is for like actual huge capital crimes. So you're not going to get sent back for like shoplifting or something. You're going to get sent back for like serial killing. So the main character, Sam, one day is sent back 200 million years himself. That's when the book kind of splits up. So you follow Sam for a little bit as he kind of basically discovers this whole new world, because he goes back to obviously the time of the dinosaurs. Climate's entirely different. The continents themselves are different as well. And then you also follow Sam's daughter. I think she's like 19. She's an older teenager, and she is determined to get her dad back because she's already lost her mum. Her mum died a few years ago. She can't lose her last parent, so she is determined to figure out how to get him back. I don't really want to say anything else regarding her storyline because things kind of come out of the woodwork and stuff. In terms of Sam's storyline, it kind of just disappears halfway through the book. It does start to alternate when he goes back in time between him and his daughter, and then you're following him as he sort of floats towards land, because obviously there's more, not more necessarily, there's a bigger span of ocean when all of the continents are still together, so there was a pretty good chance he was going to land in the water when he time traveled, and he did. So you're following him as he gets to land, and then the events that happen when he's on land and encounters a few dinosaurs, and then you're following that for like, I don't know, maybe like 150 pages, and then it stops alternating and it only follows the daughter. And I was a bit sad about this because the book cover shows a dinosaur, and I was expecting more fun dino stuff, and I'm obsessed with dinosaurs, so you know, that's why I picked this book up. I also really like time travel, so that also was a reason, but mainly for the dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs aren't really that present. The author kind of forgets about Sam halfway through, because I think the author maybe realised there wasn't really much Sam could do 200 million years ago apart from run away from dinosaurs, and that's obviously going to get old at some point. The author clearly wanted this to be more of a time travel story and a story about father-daughter relationships and even mother-daughter relationships as well, even though the main character, whose name I can't remember, Adeline, her mother has passed away, but it's still focusing on Adeline's grief and the relationship that she did have with her mother once upon a time. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. I'm a little disappointed in the lack of dinosaurs, but this is one that I might reread, and I think I might enjoy it even more upon a reread now that I'm not expecting sort of velociraptors and T-Rexes and stuff. This would be a good one to get back into because it's very twisty. There's something that happens in the middle that kind of takes it in a direction that I wasn't expecting. So yeah, very interesting and very fast paced. Love the relationships in this one, and I also really liked the sort of expanded family or friendship group that the main characters had. So I really liked this one. I'd recommend it. And then I read Good Girls Don't Die by Christina Henry, and I hated it. I gave this one 1.5 stars. This is a horror book, and admittedly I haven't really enjoyed Christina Henry's books in the past. I tried to read one of them, which was Alice, and I really didn't go on with it. So I picked this one up because I thought it's been years since I tried to read Alice. Maybe her writing has changed, maybe my tastes have changed, maybe I would enjoy this, but I really didn't. So this follows 3 different characters, but it starts off with just one of them, and then you go to character number 2, and then you go to character number 3. And so the first character is waking up without her memories. She's not really sure who she is, but she knows who she isn't. She is trying to figure out why this guy is saying that he's her husband, why this kid is apparently hers, and there's also a murder mystery taking place. So that's like the first maybe 80 pages, and then it switches to the second character, who is in a completely different setting, and it's more of a cabin in the woods type horror story. And then the next character, the third one, is kind of in a dystopian Hunger Games Divergent-esque sort of story, and it read like short stories, and I freaking hate short stories. I really don't get on with them. I can't remember, apart from The River of Silver, which is obviously about characters that I already love, I don't think I have enjoyed a short story collection when the stories aren't connected. I mean, they all came together at the end, but it felt like they were disconnected because they were completely different genres. So I really didn't like this one. I don't think it was written well, and I just found it very jarring, so I gave this one 1.5 stars. I then read The Last Word by Taylor Adams, and I really enjoyed it actually. I gave it 3 stars because it's not amazing, it's not going to stick with me, but it was a really fun slasher sort of thriller. So this one is about a woman who has gone to live with her dog in a beach house. She's sort of like house sitting while the owner is away, and she communicates with the neighbour through hangman, like on a whiteboard, and she doesn't really talk to anyone else around, and nor does the neighbour. The main character, because she's so isolated by herself, she's kind of bored, so she's doing a lot of reading, and she decides to leave a 1-star review of a book that she really didn't like, and then she is contacted by the author, and the author is kind of like, take this down, it's really rude, how dare you not like my book? And she's like, no, go away, it's a book review. And then she starts to get stalked and harassed by the author. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. It was a really interesting take on real life issues, I would say, because authors have actually gone after book reviewers. The main character isn't necessarily a book reviewer. I think she only ever left that 1-star review, so it's really bad luck. Stuff like this has happened in real life, and I don't think the author, Taylor Adams, was taking kind of inspiration from anything that had really happened. There are 2 instances that I know of in real life where book reviewers have either been assaulted or stalked by authors, and I don't think he's really inspired, Taylor Adams that is, by these. It was just an interesting take on a slasher, having an author go after a person or a book reviewer. This really felt like a sort of campy horror or slasher in an isolated setting, and like I said, really enjoyed it. It was super fun and fast paced. I did spend most of the book worrying about the dog because really I didn't care about the main character. Like, she was fine, but she wasn't really stand out, and she did have some stuff going on, but I didn't really care for it. I cared about the dog, and I was worried about him. Or her, I can't remember. The dog was my favourite character, but yeah, 3 stars for this one, it was good. I then read None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I have reviewed this one on Instagram very briefly, and someone tagged the author in my review, and now she has commented on it, which makes it very awkward because I kind of said that I didn't like Lisa Jewell's books in the past. Because I didn't, but I really liked this one, so I gave this one 4 stars. This one is about 2 characters. There's Alex and Josie. They both share a birthday, and they were born at the same hospital, so they meet on their birthdays or birthday, and then they bump into each other again. It turns out they live local to each other, and Josie has been listening to Alex's podcasts, and Josie thinks that she herself would be a good topic for Alex's podcast series because Josie thinks that she's kind of about to change her life and things are going to all improve from here. So Alex does like a trial interview, and Josie seems really strange, but she's got some interesting stuff going on in her life. For example, she married a much older man when she was a teenager. Alex is like, this is really weird and unsettling, and it was somewhat illegal, but Alex wants to know more about Josie. And then of course, like, there's dark secrets. None of This Is True. It was a very interesting book. I listened to it on audio, and I definitely think that's the way to go. I found the narrator to be very good. I really enjoyed reading about the relationship between the 2 characters, the way that it sort of built up and then it deteriorated. I was very interested in all of the drama and the goings on, and I was also very intrigued by Josie's life as well, like Alex was. After the ending, I'm not really sure what to believe. I'm not going to say any more than that, but I feel like the author really kind of pulled the rug out from under me, which was a lot of fun. I've seen some complaints about Josie's husband and the way their relationship is portrayed, because he is a lot older and he did get with Josie when he was a teenager, we think. But I don't think this means that Lisa Jewell is necessarily condoning that. I'm not really sure where people got that from. It's just a very strange take to have, I think, after reading this book. Overall, this was super fast paced and twisty, and really enjoyed it, so I definitely definitely recommend this. I'm gonna have to give this back to the library. I don't think I would buy my own copy, but I'm really glad that I listened to this on audio. I then read the 5th Princess Diaries book, so I'm trying to catch up with, or just read through this series. I started it when I was younger, and I definitely read this one when I was younger, but I can't remember if I read number 6, so we're almost in new territory, I think. I didn't really remember much of this one because these books are so short. The story from when I was younger kind of has just merged in my head. Yeah, this is fun. This is about, you probably know what this is about. It's about a girl who finds out that she's a princess. Her dad is a secret heir to the throne in Europe, which is a fake kingdom. It doesn't actually exist. And Mia stays in high school in America, and she's kind of struggling through that, struggling to go through her usual high school stuff. And I really like it. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I found that one of these books, I think number 3 or 4, was actually quite boring, but this one is starting to pick up again, so I'm very much enjoying it, and I'm glad that I am rereading this series, and I can't believe I'm finally going to finish it at some point, not anytime soon, because I kind of read these books when I'm tired and in bed on my Kindle, and I just want to like turn my brain off for a bit. So I probably won't finish this series this year, but I'm making my way through it nice and slowly, and I'm really enjoying myself. I'm actually really excited to get to the later books in the series when Mia is older. I think that will be a lot of fun. It'll be really interesting to see her as an adult and to read them as an adult as well. I then listened to Bright Young Women, mostly as an audiobook. I started reading it as in physical format, and then I had to finish it off in physical format as well because Spotify blocked me because I had listened to too much in 1 month. So this follows a woman called Pamela who, when she was younger, she was in a sorority in college. A couple, or a few of her sorority sisters, I guess you call them, were attacked by a serial killer, or they don't really know who it was. 2 of them were just injured, and then a couple of them died, and one of them was her closest friend. So you're kind of following her in the past, like it's a flashback to the 70s, and you're following her as she is trying to get the police to take this seriously, to tell them the truth about what happened that night or what she saw, because they don't believe her. They're kind of going in one direction with the suspect, but she knows it wasn't this person, so she's trying to get them to actually follow the evidence. And then you've also got the present day. She is kind of revisiting what happened. I think it's like 50 years later or something. It's very emotional. I really enjoyed what the author did here. This was a case where I really enjoyed the flashback scenes and the switches to present day. I think the author handled those switches very well. I really enjoyed what the author was exploring here, and I also really liked that she didn't end up naming the serial killer. She just called him the defendant the entire way through, and you could sort of tell that this was loosely based on another serial killer from a similar time period in real life, who I will not name because the author didn't name her one, so I'm not going to. I feel like this was definitely inspired by that person's victims' stories. While I was reading it, I was actually feeling very tense, and then when I got to the end, I just felt like such relief, which really showed me that I was really connected to the book, and I feel like it was really wonderfully done. There's also another point of view in the past as well who we're following, not just Pamela. There's someone also called Ruth who is going through some stuff. She is gay in the 70s and has just broken up with, I think, her husband. I don't think they were just partners, I think they were married, and she's trying to deal with all of that as well as stuff that happens later. I really found the exploration of LGBT in the 70s very interesting because it's not really something that I've read about. And this is set, I think, mainly in Florida. I can't remember if it's set elsewhere as well. I think it must be, but I can't remember where. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed this one. I don't know if that review was coherent at all or if it was just a ramble, but I really liked it, and I gave this one 4 stars. I then listened to The Christmas Appeal on audio, and I gave this one 4 stars, and I might bump it down to 3.5 just because it was all right. It's a short story, which everyone knows I don't like, but I feel like the audio narration really added to this one and kind of bumped it up in my eyes. This is set in the same town that The Appeal by the same author is set in. The characters here are trying to organise a Christmas pantomime, which are, I think they're huge in the UK. I haven't been to one. I don't think, well, my mum says that I have been to one, but I don't remember ever going to one, so I don't know if I have. But anyway, these are like Christmas pantos, and they're very popular in the UK, I think. And these characters are trying to organise one, and they get a beanstalk out of storage because they're trying to do Jack and the Beanstalk, and they find a dead Father Christmas in the beanstalk. And so that's obviously causing a load of drama for them because they want to host this panto. Then the police have to get involved because there's a dead person inside the beanstalk. I'm only laughing because it's meant to be quite like humorous. I did enjoy this one. Like I said, the audio really added to it. I don't think I would have enjoyed this as much if I had read my ebook version, which I started to, but I couldn't get into it. But thankfully I did pick up the audio and very much enjoyed it. There's not really much to say about it because it's a very short novella. The audiobook only took me, I think, 3 hours. It's just very amusing and I really like the characters. I do have to say, I think that there's one family in particular in this town who is portrayed in a very stereotypical way. I'm not going to say who because it's related to what happens at the end of the book. I didn't feel entirely comfortable with it. So that really stood out to me. And it's a shame I can't say anything because of spoilers, but I'm questioning how the author portrayed, I guess, class in this book. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I then, on a whim, picked up the Stepford Wives. I was listening to a podcast a little while ago. I think it was when I was on my honeymoon, actually, and they were talking about the Stepford Wives. And they basically spoiled the entire book. So I figured, while I'm just not really sure what I'm in the mood for, I might as well try and pick up more of a classic. It's a short book as well, so I'm just going to go for it and then see. Because I've already had the story spoiled, I shouldn't take too long to get into it. I already know what's going to happen. And that's definitely true. I gave this one 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. So this is about a woman called Joanna who moves to a town called Stepford. She moves with her husband and 2 children, and I think she's some sort of artist or photographer moving to this suburban town. And she's greeted by a bunch of women who seem very odd. They seem to be obsessed with cleaning, doing right by their husbands and supporting the husbands and not having a job themselves. And she's kind of like, I don't like this. I'm a photographer. I've got my own career. It's not that she's trying to figure out what's going on, but she starts to realise that something is kind of brewing in this town. And it has something to do with the Men's Association, which is the local boys club. I did really enjoy this, and I'm sure everyone knows what it's about probably and knows what the twists are. I definitely knew what the twist was going into it because of this podcast, but before that I hadn't actually heard anything. I didn't know. I found this very suspenseful, even though I did know what was going on, and very creepy. And it's definitely one that I would like to reread in the future as well, because I feel like upon a reread I could really dig into this and get into the themes and stuff. My copy does have an introduction by Chuck, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Chuck Palahniuk, which I read after reading this book, and I did find it very interesting actually. Just a really interesting book to read. This came out in 1972, so this is probably one of the oldest books that I read in 2023. I then read The Wake Up Call by Beth O'Leary. So she is one of my all-time favourite authors, but this is one of the books of hers that are bottom of my pile or ranking, I guess. So I gave this one 3.5 stars, which is obviously not bad, but it's not as emotional as the other books. So her other books, most of them have made me sob, and so I've given them all 4 or 5 stars, bar one, I think. But this one, definitely less emotion there. So it's not my highest rated from her, but it's still really good. So this follows 2 people whose names can't remember, and they are sort of rivals working for this hotel, and this hotel is also going out of business. They're kind of kept on and asked to try to sell some stuff from the lost and found because they've got jewelry that they've sort of collected over the years that's just been sat there, so they might as well try to sell it. And so they look up how you do that and what the law surrounding that is in the UK, and it's all above board, and the 2 of them really don't like each other, so this is sort of an enemies to lovers romance in a contemporary setting. I enjoyed it. It was okay, but I don't think it's going to really stick with me like Beth O'Leary's other books have, and that's a bit of a shame, but I did still find it very readable and enjoyable, so I gave it 3.5 stars. I don't really have much to say about this one other than it's written well and I like the characters. It was all fine. I then read Divine Rivals and I absolutely hated it, so I've marked it as 2.5, but I'm actually going to change that to a 2. And I'm going to do a full review of this book on my channel because I really didn't like it. So this is a YA book. It's a fantasy. There are 2 main characters. One of them is called Rowan and the other one is called Iris, which I've just realised are both plant names. I wonder if that was intentional. And they are working for a newspaper and they want to become columnists. And so they are sort of vying for the same promotion. And so they are rivals. They hate each other in the beginning and I'm not really sure why. And then Iris's brother went to war onto the front line and then he disappeared. She lost touch with him. And so she has been trying to write to him using a typewriter, which turns out to be a bit of a magic typewriter because her letters then get delivered to Rowan. But Rowan knows that it's Iris, but he doesn't tell Iris that it's him. So Iris thinks that she is talking to a guy called Carver, and I really freaking hated that. I think this was such a poor relationship because Rowan here held all of the power. He knew everything about Iris and all about her sort of insecurities and emotions, about how she was worried about her brother, that she had just lost her mum as well because her mum dies right at the beginning of the book. I feel like, I don't know, he's taking advantage of her. I really didn't like the way that the romance played out in this because it is like a fantasy romance sort of book, and I really didn't ship them together. I honestly hate this romance so much, and that's why I gave it 2 stars, because this romance takes up all of the book and there's barely any fantasy elements. The war is actually being led by 2 gods. The male god seems to be obsessed with the female god. Both sides are fighting each other, but the romance is definitely the main part of this book, and I really didn't like it. I thought that, yeah, like I said, there was a massive power imbalance with the way that this played out, and I didn't like Rowan all that much anyway. Yeah, that's all I really want to say about it right now. I'm going to write all my thoughts down and then do a full review on my channel so I can talk about this properly. I don't think a wrap-up video is the time to really get in depth about this. Just know that I really didn't like it and I've given it 2 stars. I thought it was poor. And then finally, my last book of the year was The Stranded. So I picked this one up in September or July maybe, and it's a YA dystopian book, and I picked it up because I've been seeing it everywhere. I think the sequel had just come out, and so everyone on Twitter was sort of promoting this, and I thought this was okay. I've given it 3 stars. I don't think I'll read the sequel. I'm probably just going to DNF the series. This is about, well, it's set on what was once a luxury cruise ship, and it's now a ship which is kind of just sat near the coast of the US because years ago there were viruses and the mainland people in the US didn't want these cruise shippers people to come ashore, and now these people have been living on the ship for years, and there are like gangs and different societies and stuff, and their goal for most people is to kind of get ashore by changing their career paths and being really good and loyal citizens, and they're sort of promised like a position on the mainland if they behave. Obviously, as it's a dystopian book, that may not really happen. This follows a bunch of different characters. There are so many different points of view. I think there are like 3 or 4, and I think one of them in particular could have been cut out. I'm just trying to find the guy's name, but basically he's the captain of the guard. He's not a very nice person. I don't really know why we had his point of view. His name is Hadley, and he is kind of on the ship to bring order to it, and he keeps introducing new rules and stuff which are not very good for people. He's cutting people's rations and punishing them for small grievances, and I don't really know why we got his point of view. I think this book would have been much better if we had followed someone else instead. And then we also follow someone called Esther, and then we also follow an acquaintance of Esther's sister, and it's just such a weird combination for main characters. I don't really understand it. The setting of this one was really good. Otherwise, I think the plot was very generic and it didn't really give me anything new, so it was basically like another YA dystopian that I'd read before. Not anyone in particular, but like I felt like this was nothing new. So that's why I gave it 3 stars. It's not awful, but I'm going to recap this one and then unhaul it because I don't think I will ever reread it. There's no need. I'm going to forget about this soon. That's my reading wrap up for the end of the year. How many books was that? Actually, I think I had quite a good reading month. 12 books in December, which isn't bad at all. I did have some time off work, but not too much, and December was also really busy at work as well, so I'm pleased that I managed to read that many books. I'm really happy with how December went overall. Let me know if you've read any of these books or if you're planning to. Let me know if you also hated Divine Rivals, because I would like to not be alone. I've already spoken about my January goals and January TBR on my channel, but coming up I've got my statistics and a few different book reviews as well, so stay tuned for those. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll speak to you all in the next one. Bye!